It does not say that the head of an extra ministerial department shall be summoned to defend the policy of the government or of his department. No. We must also recognize the fact that the drafters of the Constitution knew what they were doing. You can't just summon everybody. The Senate will have, you just reduce the status of the Senate. Your position has been elevated. And it's not the first time. There was a case, I think, Maleme Rufai, Nasiru Rufai, versus the House of Representatives. I think he made a statement somewhere, which the House considered to be defamatory. And he was summoned. Of course, you can trust Nasiru. He went to court. I'm talking of the current governor of Kaduna State. He went to court to challenge the summons served on him. And the court said, relying on the Second Republic case of Tony Momo and the Senate, the Court of Appeal said, no. Your powers under Section 88, if I can use the language of the Court of Appeal, right? Those powers are not for personal aggrandizement, but they are limited to, investigation purposes. So and the Senate has to understand this so as to save itself from any embarrassment. So I do hope that this case will be allowed to take its course so that this matter can be decided once and for all. Under the doctrine of lis pendis, a matter that is pending in court, the Senate is enjoined to allow the court to determine the matter. Even the rules of the Senate provide that once any matter is sub judice, that is their own language, the Senate shall not discuss it. But again, as I said, this case is distinguishable from that of the secretary to the government because the Shehu Usmani Committee, investigative committee, which is looking into the criminal diversion of funds meant for clearing, a grass cutting contract, over 200 million naira, has been confirmed to have been diverted. Of course, under Section 88 of the Constitution, the Senate has the power to set up a committee to look into that. And if the Secretary of Government does not show up, or like in the case of the Comptroller General of Customs, the Senate has the power under Section 89 to order his arrest. And the law must take its course this time. Because the most provocative aspect of his own case was that he has been indicted. He has no defense. And it was the president who wrote a letter to the Senate. Please, can you reconsider his case? Can you give him fair hearing? Since he's saying you didn't hear him. The Senate now said, okay, we're ready to listen to you. You can't say you are rushing to court. To do what? Because the case is already almost concluded. The other point that I think I should clarify. Again, this is by way of advice. I think the Senate should also desist from exposing itself to embarrassment or ridicule. What you are discussing, a matter of national importance with respect to the legal policy of the Nigerian Customs Service to ask people who bought their vehicles 10 years or thereabout, or 5 years ago, to come to them and pay appropriate duties. And as I did make clear in my intervention, the Customs Department is stopped. Because at the time I bought my car, I paid the duties charged at that time. So you can't wake up 5 years, 10 years later, and there are decisions of the court on this matter. That once you make me to believe that I've paid the appropriate fee or duty, right, you are stopped from subjecting me to any further harassment. Why I'm saying the Senate has to be very careful. That was a very serious point, that the Minister of Finance ought to have been summoned. the revenue you are expecting from this policy is it in the budget? Because under the law, the government cannot raise any revenue without appropriating it. Just like you cannot withdraw from the account of the federal government without an enabling law. You also cannot raise the revenue of the country or impose a tax or a levy without a law to back it up. Why I'm saying that, the Senate has to be careful so that it does not descend to, irrelevancies and be asking somebody to wear uniform and the rest of them without looking at the law.
But what does the law say about the wearing of the uniform?
Under Section 31 of the Customs and Excise Service Regulations, it is the board headed by the Minister of Finance that would designate or would decide which uniform, the uniform that officers of the Customs and Excise, Nigerian Customs Service should wear. In this case, Colonel Hamid Ali is not a customs officer. And nobody has said he's a customs officer. So how can you ask him to wear the uniform of a customs officer? Of what rank? Because some people are taking the President Buhari to court for appointing an outsider to head the Nigerian Customs Service. And the court has said, by virtue of Section 171 of the Constitution, the President is not banned to appoint only customs officers. Again, it's only the Minister of Finance that the Senate ought to have invited to clarify even the issue of wearing of uniform. And if the Senate felt so convinced that the gentleman should wear a uniform, a suggestion will have been made to the minister who is heading the board to see what could be done in the circumstance. But you don't just simply say, go and wear a uniform, when the law does not back up your command, your directive. That's why I'm saying that the Senate will need to be properly guided.